Give it a few minutes for the guys to get in to let people have a chance to get in before I start. It's a little early. Quarter to 11. Good morning. Yeah, I was just saying, let's give these guys a few minutes to get in. See if I find any deals online. Yeah, like lead screws or actual printers and stuff like that. Like, let's look at this flying bear or flying ice bear. Um, this one. I thought this was pretty interesting, and the price is pretty good. So, like, this one was sort of funny because it's got the minimal number of parts to make a working printer. So, um, and the nice thing about it is that oh, if it shows it. Maybe if I could zoom in a bit. Um, yeah, it looks like he's using some sort of through-hole mounting, like I'm specifying, but I don't know how they offset the two um, that uses the same spot. So I gotta see how they do it because it's such an interesting idea. It's like I said, minimal number of parts, and it's got a sort of the idea I had before where it using like container crane idea, right? Where it moves it along the one axis, and then um, the actual extruders on the other. So it's interesting how it works. It's still got the weight on one end, which I don't like. So yeah, it's interesting. All right, that's two. Oh, let's get started because I figure people will drop in. Skip this way. Let's get right to it. So maximize this. Basically, the last few days was sort of mucking around with the rod holders. Let's see if we get this one out of the way so we can see it better. There we go. So let's get this view. So basically, I was working on these upper rod mount holders, and okay, hang on. I'm gonna switch view. There we go. So I was working on these upper Z rod holders, and the I had to do it a few times because I wasn't taking into consideration the print head having to go all the way past the edge of the bed. I know we don't necessarily have to take it down into consideration, but if people start designing parts cooling fans, we kind of have to tell them that you have space beyond the print bed to kind of offset the parts cooling fan. So I had to kind of make this surface at least level with this one so that you could travel beyond the edge of the bed into the kind of the negative area. So what I ended up doing was I designed this surface and this surface to be level, so that the print head has an extra 35, 40 millimeter of travel beyond the edge of the bed for clearing um, the print head. So it's a very simple. I mean, once I got the measurements, it was a pretty simple thing to do. Basically, what it is it captures the 12 mil rod, 10 millimeters into the bottom part here, and maybe I bring up the actual mount. Um, Okay, so that's better. So that's basically captures the 10 millimeter rod the 10 millimeter of the 12 millimeter diameter rod into that hole there, and there's a countersunk M6 that bolts through into the extrusion. There's an access hole for the wrench, so that you would have to sort of snake the bolt through up here, and then using the access hole and for the driver to get into the spot there. So I cut all this void out so that we're not printing the void and having to deal with the big hole that goes, like the big drill hole that goes through the middle there. And it looks a little neater. So there's a huge cutout for that. Save some weight. It's 60 millimeter wide, so it uses 2 bolts, so there's no chance of it pivoting around. The alignment blocks there to align it to the correct spot. Overall, a simple part, nothing really fancy about this part. It does the job, brings the rod hole mount out into the correct space, and then it brings it down to the correct spot. So the upper one was actually once I figured out that I needed to clear the print head, the upper one was pretty easy to finish up. So then on to the next thing was the lower one. The lower one was a little bit trickier because I needed to bring it out 30 millimeters to match the upper rod mount, and then in a way that makes it look neat. So I came up with this idea. It would sit the 12 millimeter rod would sit 10 millimeters into the lower mount, and there's a matching motor mount that works with that that same style, I should say, not works with, but the same style as the lower rod mount. So that works well when I first did it, and it gives you I think a 200. Yeah, let me bring this down here. Gives you a 200 millimeter rod spacing for a 400 millimeter 420 millimeter what they call it, the 400 millimeter bed with a 200 millimeter rod spacing will kind of evenly space it out among the low point. So that works well. I think that's with the rod spacing is correct. It now is just a matter of playing around with the actual designing the piece that holds it. So right now, what I did was I just used the bushings and the palm nut to sort of figure out where it needs to be before I model the transition piece. Basically, I need a transition piece that goes from this bushing to the bottom of this extrusion to hold it up. So it basically is going to be like an L-shaped piece that is So an L-shaped piece that goes from the bushing to the extrusion here to hold it up. Um, the limit of that travel right now is kind of up to the top of, like I said, parallel to this. So we have plenty of room down here to work with. Let me bring this out so you guys can see it. So basically the bed will move up and down. We got about 424 travel there. So that's pretty much the travel where I was working with. And I thought, well, after I did that, I thought, well, we're wasting a lot of space between this and the bottom here. So, and mainly because the way these rod mounts and the motor mount is basically preventing it from going any lower. I mean, that's a good like 100 millimeter of travel we're not using there. So, what I did was I looked at it. These are 475 millimeter rods. If I were to increase those to 500, so they bring it down slightly, and then let me go here and update the joint limits to bring it down another 25 millimeter. I was able to get it down to another 25 millimeters. So if somehow I had to remodel these mounts, the rod mounts, to bring it down to. I can't get a good view on this. So if I were to redo these mounts to bring it down to another 25 millimeters to allow it this much travel on the bushing, we're getting about 25 millimeters at height. I think the rest of this, I have to see. I mean, if we get it, if we want to go extreme, I'm gonna bring it down even more. Bring it down another like 50 millimeter. That'll bring the bed down pretty low. But what I'm concerned about is how much space we need to leave on the bottom for the for electronics and for the cabling and stuff like that, and also the I've already bought 500 millimeter, 500 millimeter long, 12 millimeter diameter rods. So, and the limit on the lead screw, you could get 500 millimeter, and then you get them custom after that, like 525 or 550, but the next big jump is 600. So, one of the problems is that like right now is if I bring it down, like if I bring, oh crap, not that. I didn't ground it. Okay, I guess I have to ground that. Right now, if I have about 31. I have about 31 millimeter of extra. Like this for this, I have an extra like 31 millimeter of travel on that 460. So if I bring a 500 millimeter lead screw in there, I should be able to bring it down lower, but the Z rod would be longer. So I gotta play around with that. I think it's worth it if I could somehow maximize the Z to get more than 420. I know we will aiming for 420, but if we get more than 420 in there, that'd be kind of cool. Like before, maybe 450, 460 area. If I get that, then it'd be good. But I have to kind of play around with it. The upper is set. It's the lower that I'm concerned about. The lower being that I sort of don't have. If you look at this, right, what's happening is if I had to mount this rod to this extrusion, I have only about 10 millimeter space in here. So I would have to make, if I use this slot, I have to kind of make it so that it side mounts. Then I have to figure out whether or not that works with the motor mount, because I don't know if there's enough space in there for the motor mount as well. So there's going to be some juggling around there. But if I lower this whole thing by like a 50 millimeter, we're getting a 50 millimeter Z height. So Um, I sort of been rushing through this lower one. I mean, for the last 2 days, I've been playing around with it, and yeah, I'm really struggling with the bottom. But I think once I get an idea going, I think the bottom will look pretty nice too. So I just have to kind of work with it. I really don't want to have to use the bottom of the extrusion. I don't want to bring like I don't want to have to use the bottom and bring it up like so, because that's awkward. And then it's awkward in a way that also you could do it for the rod holders, but you can't use it for the motor mount. The motor mount really has to be top mount. So my limitation is I think what I should do is figure out how do I bring this motor mount surface as low as possible to and still would be within this plane, like this vertical plane, and bring it and using the side or the top or both at the same time to bring this motor mount as low as possible, because that's going to be the defining attribute, right? Is how low can I get the lead screw, and how long can it be so that I can bring the bed as low as possible. Because like I said, like right now is you can see there's close this. The bed is not anywhere near the limit of travel for this frame. I mean that if you look at that, that's if we do the measurement here. Measure between that and that surface there. That's 50 millimeters. So basically, it's telling me I have 50 another, like even at the lowest precision right now with the 500 millimeter rod, I still have another 50 millimeter travel before this extrusion frame and this one becomes too low. So I think if I can squeeze another 25, so let's say split the difference, right? So right now this bottom extrusion is 30 millimeter. And then the distance between that and this extrusion is 50. If I were to squeeze another 25 downward travel, that leaves 55 millimeter of clearance on the bottom for electronics and for cabling. I think that's a good size. I mean, 50 millimeter, 55 millimeter is like good. Not that much. And for comparison, let's just bring what can I think comparison? The stock power supply is it's about 50, about 45, I think, for this. This clears it, so that gives you enough room to put a power supply on the bottom and still encase it. So I think that's a good size. So that's what I'm gonna aim for then is to bring that whole Z assembly down 25 millimeters, and then make the motor mount work. Then adjust the rod holders so that they will allow the to another 25 millimeter from that. So that means that if everything goes well, that's 525 for the smooth rod. So I bought 500 millimeter. I don't know, like that means I have to go buy 525 again. It's kind of bugging me. I should have waited on that smooth rod before I bought it, because now I'm like 25 millimeters is too short. That's what she said. Maybe for me, I think maybe if like I'll end up getting the 525 anyway. That's why I've been telling Donald not to pick up the parts from Midas yet, because like at least some of these Z parts, because I'm not really sure which way I'm gonna go yet. So I really need to kind of finalize that But at least if that's the case, then it looks like I might be going with a 500 millimeter lead screw. So either way, I think we gotta play around with that. I should have that finalized this weekend, and early next week we can start planning for ordering the Z parts. But overall, you can see like it is coming along pretty nicely. Like being able to get that Z height going, that's pretty good. So I think there should be enough clearance on top. So I think the top is pretty much set. I think the top is pretty much set in stone. I know that Donna ordered the rails and the idlers and stuff like that already. So and then extrusions. The 750 height extrude, the 750 millimeter vertical extrusion seems to work okay because that gives us the 400 that we're looking for vertically. So I think it works well. That's the update for the design anyway. And let's see. If we were to go look at that's flying bear. So this is the one. This is the motor that we were looking at before. Was the next maximum is 500 millimeter lead screw, weight point step, NEMA 1730 rod with the palm neck. So shipping is expensive, but if we were to go with like some of these faster options, but if we were to go with the China Post, I think it's like 11. There's like 14 something for China registered China Post. The only problem with buying these, not buying them, not buying these and not going through, because you only need two. So let's see what like the is that like basically you're paying $50 for shipping on $100 worth of motors. So if possible is to get a bunch of people in a group buy situation where, like, let's say if you were to buy 4 pieces, then it's only $70 to ship it for 4 pieces. That works out to $35 for each person that buys it, because you buy 4, you have 2 people to build the printer. That works out to $35. It's still more reasonable. And then once you get up to like 6, it's about the same. It's like $33 each. And then you get into, yeah, so basically after 4, it basically works out to about $35 to per person to get a pair of these. So yeah, it's 10. You're looking at like that's 5 people, $155, $30. So it works out to be $30 after the first pair. So if you can find a buddy that's going to build it with you, then it works out that you pay you guys split the shipping after the first pair. I wouldn't go with the slow boat option. Like the slow boat option was like $14, but then that's like 60 days. So that takes a long time. I bought these before, and it did take about 40-50 days. So you might not want to wait that long. Same with the smooth rods. I mean, they are. It's kind of like it's cheap. $360 a piece for the 10 or 12 mil 500 millimeter rod. Well, we need 525 anyway. But the problem is that it's $8 to ship it. I mean, and it takes 40 days. So it's a cheap option. But then once you add in the shipping, it's like $11. I think I guess one's about the same. I think $17, something like that. Well, not the same, but I think about 17. I got to get the pricing, but $17 to $18 for their smooth rod, and then I think it's like $12 at Misumi. So these at $8, like $11 for US, this is a really expensive option to use. So sometimes when you buy something on AliExpress, you kind of have to be careful. It's like, is it cheaper overall because of with the shipping and everything, or like you have to take that in consideration too. Yeah, not much good stuff this week on the shopping front. I looked at it. Like I think this one, the Wasn't bad. I was thinking about, like, for parts. This is actually pretty good if you want to strip it for parts, because it does have one, two, three, four, five motors, and it's got a whole bunch of aluminum parts. So in terms of stripping the and electronics, so in terms of stripping this down for parts, it's actually not too bad. You got the RAMs and knockoff RAMs and stuff like that. And it's got a pretty good built area. It's 200 cubed. So this one was a pretty good deal. If you want, like I said, if you want to strip it for parts, is for that to rods, and it comes with the proximity sensor, the auto leveler, right? So what else happened this week? I had a partial clog on one of the printers, and it was driving me nuts. I was getting these, like, yeah, I could tell, like, crap prints, like, look at the front here. So basically, it was like getting all these. That was like 20 hours into the print. It was like pissed me off. So, the I tried cleaning Element. I tried heating it up. I tried everything, and it wasn't working right. So then, give me a second. So after messing with it for a while, I said forget it. Like I swapped the PI on the other printer, and then I put the same filament and same print through it, and the oh, okay, here we go. That PTG is printing wonderfully on the printer. Like I said, like zero problems with this part. This is actually going out to I can't remember his name. I know his name is Smith. I don't remember his first name. The basically he bought the Haribo 3030 printed parts for me, and I promised him that I will get him the XNs printed and the Y carriage, that is the X carriage printed, so that it would match the rest of his printer. And this is his parts. I've been kind of forgetful to finish that off for him, so these are going out to him Monday. I had to kind of pack them up and go, but I printed the two XNs and the X carriage. It came out great. Like 11 hours for all the pieces. I printed it kind of slowly too, so that it came out like almost perfect. So I'm happy with that. The heat beds. So there's been a lot of requests for restocking the MK42 clone heat beds. I've been working on it. Leslie's been very helpful. We found another place, actually in Canada, that's going to make the beds. We're getting quotes on it, and hopefully by the end of maybe mid to end of next week, I'll have some news about the ETA for those. That'll save us time and money, shipping costs instead of getting them from Asia and then bringing it here and then reshipping them. I would be able to go and pick them up locally, actually, and then shipping them out from here. So that should make it a lot easier, and I should be able to fulfill more orders that way. Like every so often I only get like 10 or 20, and it was killing me. So I think I'm gonna put in an order for like 50 of them, and then see what happens, and then sell them and fulfill the need for the board anyway. He's also working on a new bed, so once I get some news from him, I'll release that to you guys as well. He does the Kickstarter, okay, guys. Yeah, so here's the thing, right? I'll get into that. Let me just finish up with what I want to talk about with Leslie. So Leslie has been working on and has released actually the QCE, the quick change extruder. Um, it's actually it's a very good design. I mean, I've seen it personally a few times, and I talked to him more throughout the development cycle. Um, it is a very well engineered product, and a modification for the MK2. Allows you to like quickly swap the extruder and the fan and everything over. So when you have clog, let's say what happened to me, instead of having to deal with actually using a different printer, I could have just swapped in a whole new X carriage. So just have a look at it. I mean, I think Aaron was taking care of like the selling some of the parts for it, because there's some customized parts of the PCB and that uses pogo pins to make the contact, so that allows you to do quick change. So I know he's selling that on Etsy, and then but you actually make all the parts yourself if you wanted to, but he was selling some of the ready-made PCBs and stuff like that on Etsy. So be sure to check it out. I think it's an exciting thing to do on your printer if you wanted to kind of swap, let's say for different size nozzles and stuff like that. Is have a whole carriage just ready to go. Sort of similar to loose bot. And the loose bot has the same idea, is that they allow the entire carriage to be swapped out for different sizes and stuff like that. So I think you should check it out if you haven't had a chance to yet. But yeah, it's great. It's highly recommend it. Going back to James's question or comment about the Kickstarter MK42 bed guy. So see, like that's one thing, right? Is the source for the heat bed was really available on GitHub, but the problem is that none of the instructions, the manufacturing instructions or specifications or like what I like to call secret sauce was on GitHub. So if you just took those files and you just sent them to a fab house and you say, hey, I want this particular thing made, they just do it normally. So you gotta remember, normal PCB manufacturing, they don't take into consideration flatness and resistance. So there's two things that you need to look at, right? Is does the board, because the board itself acts like a resistor. That's how it heats up. If you have the wrong resistance, it will heat up incorrectly, either too low or too high, or just overall not work, right? The other thing is that flatness. Like most of the PCBs, like people don't care about flatness as long as it's not like hugely concave or convex. The variation doesn't really matter to them. So when they manufacture it, they don't check for that. So but for us, it's like a variation of 0.1 or 0.2. Sorry, let's say 0.2, 0.1 to like 0.25. You really notice, because that's one layer height. So basically, if you're printing and all of a sudden you're one layer height too low or too high, you're gonna notice that. So we kind of want to be like less than 0.2 or less than 0.1 even, so that at least starting off, because the other problem is that PCB, as they heat over, it gets deformed a bit. So then but if you started flat, then your deformation is limited. But if you already started with concave convex, then you're already screwed as is, right? And then painting it up more is just gonna make it worse, right? And then also, I think the guy on Indiegogo, his countersunk or counterbore was so deep that there was barely anything hanging on to the PCB. So at least from the pictures. So you mounting that is just gonna crack it. So again, like quality stuff takes time, right? So that's why like it's hard to like we rejected 2, 3, 4 different batches now. That's why we're looking for a different supplier, because like the original supplier was not able to get the parts to our specification. So we rejected a bunch of them, and then they're getting a little peeved, and we don't want to work with them anyway now, because like the year was bad. We need to kind of find somebody else. So we're gonna go somebody else on the beds, and then hope that will be better. I know that we are sort of behind on the alpha dates. hopefully I will kind of get back into a groove and get this motor. I want to get the Z motor mount, the lower motor mount, and the rod mount finished this weekend. So today, uh, and then have the info ready for Monday, Tuesday, so that we can order the correct parts for it. I think I think the thing is that the first thing I'm going to work on is the Z motor mount, because that gets the lead screw out of the way, and I think Donna was concerned about um, like ordering that lead screw, the lead time. Funny, the pun is intended. The lead time on the lead screw motor is gonna be at least a month, so we kind of want to get that out of the way. So what I'll do is I'll model in a 500 millimeter lead screw and see if that clears everything. If it does, then let's just go with that. I'll make the mount work somehow, and then the rods are easy. Rods are 2-3 days, but the lead screw is like this where we're gonna get killed. So let me work. That's the number one thing I guess today is to get the motor mount modeled again. This is like probably gonna be like iteration 4 or 5 already. So let me get that motor mount modeled and out of the way, and then I'll update the bomb with the lead screw, and we can kind of pick that up on order. And then the lower Z rod mounts, it will be easy. It should be easier because once I set the motor, kind of use that as a reference point, then the rod mount will be just simple modification from that to the correct spot. I'm gonna see if there's a 525 maybe, but 550 I'm not sure. I had to kind of look at the rod, how long we need, but like I said, those are easier to get than the lead screw. I still have to order that silicon heater, and I think Donald ordered it last week, and I forgot. I gotta order that silicon heater, and then also Midwest Metals has not been responding to my emails, so I gotta probably give them a call Monday and say, hey, what's up? Like, are you guys still carrying the ATP 5 or mix 6 plates? I really wanted to get a deal ordered so that I could get a machine. So I gotta talk to them and see why they're not responding. I think that's pretty much all the loose ends. I mean, like right now, like is sort of we passed the halfway mark on like we probably passed the 60-70% mark on the printer. Just the matter of finishing up and oh yeah, now I remember. I need another person to volunteer to take over Pat's work on the smoothieware firmware testing. He sort of asked me if I could get a volunteer to take over so he could kind of take a step back. I think he's been busy with some personal stuff, and if if I have another alpha willing to step up to do that, that'd be great. If not, I'll take that task once I finish the design. I was hoping that he would pass the info along, and then we could kind of just pick up where he left off. I think he was trying to rewire his Haribo with the smoothieware, and I think he's been sort of swamped, and I know his work has been sort of taking up a lot of his time as well. So I'll see. I mean, I have the boards here. Maybe I'll end up kind of trying to get it working. Because like I said, I mean I could count the number of things we have left to do. Right, is the Z motor mounts and the rod mounts, the heat bed, the the bed frame, then the spider, and then the extruder. Then comes the electronics. I mean that's 5 or 6 different major subcomponents, but they're pretty much like set. Right, so I'm thinking, if I have time, I'll probably end up taking up that work and finishing it up. But I didn't want to. I was just kind of lazy on the firmware. It wasn't to go. My bad. I had to go look at the latest of the email. Yeah. So the thing is, also it was way too cheap. The James, I think he was charging like 35, 40, and then he said if needed shipping, it's a few bucks more. That's way below what it costs to make that board. So, um, it really didn't make sense to do that. I mean, we're $80, and I can tell you we were breaking even at $80. Um, there were so many rejects that um, we had to kind of take that to that quite higher price. So hopefully, I would if this new manufacturer is any good, we should really go down a little bit on that $80. But yeah, he's like at 35, $40. I don't think he has the cost worked out that great. I think it dropped out. I just noticed it was dropping out. So I'm not sure how much of that we actually caught, but like I was saying, the the um, the cost of that Indiegogo was way too low. 35, $40. Like I said, he wasn't making any money on it, and he was barely breaking even. So I think after they take their cut, um, the no, it's my end. John is again. I don't know why it hung up again. So um, after Indiegogo take their cut, and then he gets like 25, $30. There's no way he could make that board for $30. So I'm thinking that he's been sort of swamped or overwhelmed with how to get that to work, and I guess people look at it like I think he was claiming flatness at 0.75. I mean that's a lot. I mean if you look at the caliper, I mean yeah, like that much of a gap. Like that's ridiculous amount of gap. I mean, if you look at that compared to um, that's pretty much the width of the iPhone charger plug. And if he's saying that that's the variation corner to corner is 0.75, um, I think like it's just crazy. Am I coming through okay now, or are you guys just like because according to the stream info, it looks okay. So I'm just gonna continue. Just give me an okay if you hear this now. Yeah. So this was what um if you look at the updates. I think he had updates in the you even missed it. Oh, there's updates. Yeah. So he according to this here 0.55, but um some of the guys are saying it's been up to 0.75. Um, yeah, James, I don't. I guess he. Uh, oh, lost everything from the start of Pat discussion. Okay. Um, let's rewind a bit. So, um, luckily I remember what I was saying. Okay, so Pat's been busy with work and family, so he was always, as he was asking for another person to pick up the firmware work that he was working on, um, and I told him, I said I'll try to find a volunteer, see if they could, whoever has the boards and stuff like that, to sort of do the testing of the movement and all that other stuff. So, and then what I said after that was, I think once I get the Z movement, like the Z motor mount and the dropping again. Okay, I think it's dropping because my laptop's overheating. Oh, so I was gonna finish up the Z motor mounts and the Z rod mounts and the bed frame, and then do a manual. Okay. It's like a repeat of the last stream, and it's like dropping in and out. I'm gonna let this run a little before I talk, because I don't want to be repeating myself like 9,000 times. Okay, looks good. That's what I'm gonna say. Oh no 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 no. Okay, let's try that. I was gonna do like I said, get the bed frame and the Z motor mount, the Z rod mounts done, so that I could install the lead screw motors and then get the Z movement and XY movement all sorted out. Once we get that all sorted out, then I could kind of go through and do a movement test, meaning make sure that the idea still, like I know the idea is good, but making sure that we don't make clearance issues and all the other stuff. Then work on the spider, and then once I get the spider, one of the things about the OT Maker spiders is that they don't include bed leveling. So I know Donald's been bugging me a bit. I shouldn't use the word bug. He raised the concern about the lack of bed leveling on the design. So I think if I come up with my own spider, at least it keeps the keep the 18mm rod distance, then I would somehow make a bed leveling sensor to work. So I just lost a chain of thought there. We could do it a few different ways. One way is to do it with FSR. I was thinking do FSR, but then not sure. The other way is we could sort of take advantage of like the Pinder sort of thing, but then the Pinder or the proximity sensor, I don't. Some people don't like it because they want to use glass or whatever on the build surface. I don't, but some people do. Then it doesn't work with the with those sensors. A mechanical touch like BL touch or FSR actually works with any surface because it basically makes manual contact with the bed surface. So I think that that's still debatable. But what I'll do is I will put the E3D V6 as the reference, and that's going to go in the southeast quadrant of the spider. So basically front right, and then front left would be where the bed level sensor is going to be. And just kind of backwards. it's kind of backwards from the from compared to the MK4 MK2. MK2 has it on the left, the hiding on the left and the proximity sensor on the right. For me, is like generally when I look at the print, I think I look from right to left, like peak like this, and then the proximity sensor being on the right will block the view. But if it's on the left, it generally doesn't block my view from the right. It's just a preference thing. Our other choice is that if I really lose a bit of the Z height, then I could perfectly center the E36 underneath the cross rod intersection point, and then that way is the you won't have to offset too much of the sensor. I have to kind of think about that, and so just so you guys know, the way I usually work is I would draw something, sketch something out, and then I would put it in relation to each other, and then kind of stare at it and figure out what will work. Kind of working out all the different variations of the idea. Then I start modeling out one of the ideas, stick it into the big design, and figure out where the clearance issues are. Go back and then iterate through. That way, it's like it sort of materializes as I go through it. Same thing's got to happen to Spider. Is once I finish the Z, is then I can understand, okay, where's the limitation. Like, where's the limitation of the movement, and how high and how wide do how much room do I have? Then I start to model it and figure out where certain things need to go. And what's going to happen is that the Spider, with the parts cooling fan and everything, and not really sorted out yet, is going to require some clearance. And once I figure out what the clearance is, I had to go back and now maybe update the Z and maybe update the XY, because the XY should be okay. I mean, we looked at it, it moves okay. I think this is a Z. Whether I have to make the upper rod holder longer or shorter to bring it up to or up and down, I think that's where the change is going to be, is clearance of the bed and relation, and the rod holder relationship to the Spider. So it's sort of, because it's a circular dependency, right? The Spider depends on how much room I have with the oh no, the Z depends on how much room I have in the frame. Then also how much clearance I have with the Spider. The Spider depends on the clearance of the Z. So they all work together. So I kind of have to make sure that they don't interfere with each other. And over time it sort of just isolates and makes everybody happy. So just have to kind of sit there and go through that motion of figuring out where the dependencies are, and then try to minimize the interference between them. I think is sort of about an hour now. I think that we're moving on. Like I've been trying to keep these in an hour, and I think it was a good update. Gave you guys the update on the Z, on the Haribo Cube. Talked about a little bit about the next steps for that, and then went through and gave you guys an update on the MK42 clone heat bed situation, and then Pat kind of wanted to kind of step down from the alpha for the firmware. So if you were, I think if you guys were one of you guys, I think I keep forgetting his name. I apologize. CWE.
Yeah.
If you going to
What?
okay. My dad's asking to go to lunch. Um, he, if you want to, if you want to how to help with the firmware testing, reach out to me on Mattermost, and then we can kind of get you introduced to Pat, and then pick up where you left off. You heard my dad. He's feeling good. I mean, like today he went outside. First time in like a few weeks now. Thanks for asking, Donald. He's been feeling great. Like he went outside and did some gardening and was working on his boat. Went out with his friends. Like he's feeling like 100% better. So thanks for asking. And then I should have told you guys about that too. It was updated. I should update you guys on that. He's cooking lunch. So I'm gonna go and have lunch. I'll catch you guys early next week. I will get the Z pods all modeled out today, and then at least get you the info for the lead screw, and so that you could order it. And I know that I need to order it as well. I want to go and call, like on Monday. I'm gonna actually call Midwest to see what's going on, because like we haven't been responding emails. If they haven't shipped your order yet, I gotta see what the heck's going on, and follow up with that. Maybe we need to find another place to buy them at, but I don't know yet. And I still haven't had a chance to go to that metal shop, which I should go so that I can check it out.